Hey there, this is a review for our Castles and Crusades campaign. This is session 82. I had 3 players for this session, so we had the characters Sprawl, Lork, and Cosmo. We picked up after the events of the last session where they plunged into the Dragon Tomb. So they're back in the city of Dornval, having some well-deserved downtime. So I kind of went around the table to have each player explain to me what their character was up to. So Lork's big thing was he was studying the manual that he found, and he has to read it for 48 hours. It doesn't have to be straight, but he has to have 48 hours of reading. And at the end of it, he gets a constitution bump, and it's actually a good one because I rolled randomly when I set the treasure for that session, and he's actually going to get, I think he got a +4 bonus to his constitution. So he has a constitution now of 19, which is really good. Better than it was originally. He had lost constitution during the campaign because he had died. His character had died, and he had lost a point of constitution. So, yeah, he's rocking a 19 con, which is really good. Cosmo spends most of his time just taking it easy. In true Cosmo fashion, he hangs out with Uncle Slim. He does have an interest, and this will kind of dovetail into the whole session. He does have an interest in starting a gambling den there in Dornval. He knows it wouldn't be as profitable like in Moss Haven or Arden, so he likes Dornval, so he wants to start it there. So he talks to Uncle Slim about that, about finding a location, and Uncle Slim agrees to help him. He does caution him that he'll have to talk to Sweeney of the Shiverblades Thieves Guild, because obviously he'll have to get cleared through them, which he understands and has no problem doing. But that's sort of in the works. Sprawl, he visits the Temple of Throster in Dornval, and it's run by a dwarf named Hedo. And he goes to Hedo looking for support because Sprawl, his goal now is to get his temple started in Highhold in the north. And he wants to do that and help prepare for the war that's coming. And which is really cool because now we're getting into some more domain style play. So he gets a lot of support from Hedo. Sprawl's reputation is very good, and especially in the city and the parties for their assistance with the brood and stuff. So he actually Hedo assigns 2 acolytes to Sprawl, and they're 2 dwarven brothers, Ebert and Dirk. Dirk is the older of the 2. They're both much younger than Sprawl. Sprawl's about 150 years old. These 2 remind him of Riska and Agrax, his 2 brothers who were killed, during the adventures of the campaign. So there's kind of a little bit of a grim reminder, but the brothers are very excited to join Sprawl. They've spent pretty much the majority of their life has been spent in the city. So they're really excited to get out and see the world. And, the more they hear stories about what Sprawl and the party's been up to, like, the more excited they are. So they get to spend probably at least a week or 2 in the city, just trying to recover. And during that time, we cut to an encounter where Lork is making one of the other things they talked about is they have some magic items that were on creatures bigger than them. So like the 2 headbands that the Troll King Sivdak was wearing, they want to see about getting those resized, and there's no real rules for it. Some people, it just magic items automatically resize, and I do that with some like rings and stuff. So I'm putting some thought into it. So we didn't commit to anything in this session because I want to research it a little bit, and if it's going to be something they have to have done or whatnot. But anyway, so they spent some time talking about that. But Lork is, traveling about the city. He's out and about when he's not reading his manual. And he's cutting through the merchant district on his way back to the Hammered Gauntlet where they stay. And he sees a familiar face in the crowd. And he sees the man that he saw purchasing captured citizens from the Brood when Lork was under the city, when he was tracking the Brood under the city, trying to rescue Bothild after she had been captured. He sees this man and he follows him, and the man doesn't seem to notice him, and he starts traveling like all these back side alleys and streets of the merchant district. And Lork takes to the rooftops, and he's like going from roof to roof relatively quietly thanks to his boots. And he spies the man coming up to, there's a set of stairs that go down to a faded green door. And there's two guys standing there outside the door. And they appear to just be hanging out until they notice the man approaching. Then they intercept the man, and there's a brief conversation, and the man shows him something. Both the men that flashes metallic in the palm of his hand. Lork can't really make out what it is. Then they let him pass, and he goes and disappears. And then Lork decides to return to the Hammered Gauntlet, where he briefs the rest of the party on what he saw and what happened. So they become very interested in this. Well, Lork and Sprawl are very interested in this. Cosmo doesn't seem to care, and he actually makes no bones about it. He doesn't care about the fate of the people that got sold off to this man. So that was actually a lot of really good role playing, and it was between the characters because they were very concerned with not only this situation, but then they're concerned with Cosmo's attitude about it. It was really actually some really good, enjoyable role-playing to be able to just sit and witness, because I didn't have to do anything except watch, which was great. So he describes to them what happens, and Uncle Slim is there. He's hanging out with his nephew and the other members of the party. He's trying to get Sprawl to join, do a card game, but Sprawl has way too much wisdom for that. He's not doing cards, so he then turns his attentions to the two dwarven brothers. He's trying to get them in on it, and they're busy arm wrestling and just doing dwarven stuff. And but he hears Lork describe this place, and he knows this place, and he tells them that place is called Finley's Place, and that it is part of the Shiverblades Thieves Guild. And Finley specializes in getting rid of exotic or rare to find items, and that they probably won't get any information from Finley if they talk to him. One, you need to be invited to get in, and the thing that Lork saw in his hand was probably a token that is given out to people that it's basically an invite so they can go there. And he tells them that like Sweeney could give those out because he's a boss in the guild. Like Uncle Slim's like, I don't have the ability to give those tokens out. I know of the place. He knows of the place, but he can't do anything more than that. And Maddie's going to help with this recap. So they're a little bit concerned about that. They're trying to figure out what to do. They end up sending Uncle Slim out to put some feelers out to see if they can get some info. Go on, Maddie, go. And he agrees to, and off he goes. He comes back. They spend the rest of the evening there. Come on, get down. You're silly. They spend the rest of the evening waiting for Uncle Slim to return. He eventually does, and he says that he made contact with a woman that works at a brothel in the Nobles District, a very high-end place called Harlow's. And this woman named Hazel is going to come and talk to them. And she does. She comes to the inn. Clearly a woman of higher class than frequents a lot of places. At least puts on that appearance. And that may be mostly for the area that she works in. The Harlow's was described as like the most ill-kept secret in the Nobles District. Like it's a very high-end brothel. And she tells the party that, yeah, she has met this man, and he came there, and reviewed all the women that worked there, but didn't pick any of them. And she was actually quite grateful that it didn't happen. There was just something about him that put her off, like made her feel very ill at ease, and like he was sizing them all up, like more so than a normal customer would there, and probably not for good intentions. And the only other bit of information that she has is that she heard the Madam of Harlow's call the man Mr. Dane. And so they note that, and off Hazel goes. The night wears on, and they're pretty much the last ones in the common room, and then they hear the door open, and in walks Mr. Dane. And so the party is like, oh boy, what's up with this? And he approaches them, and they have a conversation, and he's very matter of fact about, like, basically he's like, hey, I heard you were looking for me. I'm here to, just tell you that, my business is my business, and you would probably be best to stay out of it. And they question him about the citizens, and he basically tells them that they were put to good use. And Sproul is talking about, like, well, they have families, some of them, they need to be, and they're like, well, listen, they were put to good use, but their families would not be happy at their end. And that's pretty much all the information the party needed. And they prepared to, like, fight him. And that's one of the things they say is Sproul was talking to him and was like, you come in here by yourself and think that you're going to be able to, like that's okay, basically. And it's played much better than I'm describing. It was actually a really fun scene to play out, and the feedback that from the players, what it was like, it was very tense. Like, it was really a tense situation because of the way the conversation just kind of slowly escalated. So Sproul gets up, he goes by the door, trying to block the door. Mr. Dane he recognizes it, but then he's addressing Lork, and Lork gets up, and Lork's an imposing figure, and gets in front of him, and it, like, is kind of facing off. And they notice, I don't know if it was when Lork started circling around him. I think it was when Sproul actually went to the door, that his stance changed a little bit. Like, he became just ever so slightly, his stance changed a readiness. He doesn't carry any apparent weapons. He has a cane, a walking stick, but it's clearly for decoration. Because he's a man that looks like in his mid to late 50s, but he's very healthy, like hale person, and formidable in appearance. And so they kind of wait. We roll initiative. It gets to the point where they're like, okay, the conversation's mostly over. I'm like, all right, let's roll initiative, see what happens. And they win, of course. And but they mostly all hold their actions or make a movement to, like, position themselves. So it rolls to Mr. Dane's turn, and he mutters a word, and suddenly there's just this globe. They're all engulfed in this globe of darkness. And so they're kind of like stumbling around, trying to get out of that. And then one of the things that they'd actually mentioned, that it came up when the darkness came up, was because Lork's a half-orc, and they have a greater sense of smell. Lork had asked if, like, he had picked up a scent of the guy, so he maybe could use that in the darkness because he can't see. And I was like, sure, yeah, he smells like probably like a fine cologne or something. But then after the darkness dropped, I tell him, like, that smell slowly dissipates and goes away. And then he stumbles out of the darkness. Eventually, I think Sproul actually cast light to countermand it. And we had to futz around a little bit trying to figure out how that worked with the rules and stuff. But he does it. And the man's gone. So Bronwyn and Lily, the owner of the Hammered Gauntlet, saw all this happen. They were kind of getting prepared because they could see this very tense conversation happening. They're behind the bar, and they see Bronwyn has her very interesting looking crossbow ready, but the guy's gone. So they're a little bit of at a loss on what to do. They end up just retiring for the night. Like there seems to be no more threat. The rest of the night passes uneventfully. The next day, Lork and Cosmo and Uncle Slim go see Sweeney. They ask about Mr. Dane. Sweeney does tell them that he knows him. He's obviously not giving up any information. He also doesn't divulge. He divulges that the guild really doesn't deal in slaves. Like it's not something they typically trade in. So he wouldn't have any part of that as a representative of the guild. So they kind of leave it at that. Cosmo goes and sees the captain of the watch that Captain Fendry, who they've dealt with before. He meets with him. Fendry's initially he's happy to see Sprawl. Sprawl again is well regarded in the city, as is the party, and but he explains to him about this Mr. Dane, and Captain Fendry gets a little bit exasperated just because he's like, oh my God, we're just recovering from the Brood. We're still rebuilding the city, and now you're telling me this other potential threat. It's a lot, So the guy's, he's a good man. He's doing the best he can, but the city keeps getting kind of hammered with these different problems. But that's it. They're leaving the city and headed north. The dwarven brothers, Durik and Eberk, are prepared. Hito had actually loaded up a wagon full of supplies as well for Sprawl to bring north with him. And they leave the city. And they're like a day out from the city, I think. On their way north, they're going to go to Moss Haven first. And as they're going up the road, a shadow falls over them, and the big heavy gust of wind, and they look up and they see a dragon, and it's the brass dragon, Rasnarian, and Sir Derek, the paladin of Belados. And they land a short ways ahead of the party. The dwarven brothers are like ecstatic. They're like, oh my God, it's a dragon. They're a little fearful too because of dragon fear, but they're also super ecstatic. So they go up and they meet with Sir Derek, and he again tells them that he plans to, he's got the Horn of Draco on his side. Said he hasn't learned too much about it, but he's going to the Temple of Flame, where his order is located, and to try to find out what he can. But then he vows again that he will come north in probably a month or so. With all the travel time for the party, it'll take him probably about a month to get to Highhold. He's coming north to help, and Sprawl's, they're all very thankful to have that aid. And Sprawl is like, well, we'll let you know come. He says, you're probably going to lead this army, because and I actually didn't factor that in. That was something they threw out. That was their interpretation, which just actually kind of shows you what really great role players I have. I'm very fortunate because like a lot of characters would be like, or players, it would be more like, and which would have been fine too, that they were going to lead this army. But like, they're like, he's the most likely candidate. Like that dude's a paladin that rides a dragon. Like he needs to lead this army. So that was thrown out there. So that was great. That was all on them. So that was something that they created at the table for the campaign. They continue north, and they stop in Moss Haven. We didn't really belabor that too much. They spent a little bit of time there. Sprawl did some recruiting, and he did get 5 more followers. And they're not all religious folks. Some of them are just coming to help, like they're craftsmen and things like that. So he gets 5 more people. They load up a wagon, and they spend like a day or two in Moss Haven, and load up a wagon, and they follow north. So they have quite the procession going north. Again, we don't belabor the travel. There's not much going on in this area, so they're able to get to Arden. And in Arden, Sproul meets with Bruni, and he has a good chat with Bruni. They talk about building the temple. He also vows to aid, and they're working on more supplies to send. Bruni's actually, while he's been gone, recruited a dwarf named Dory that's a master stonemason and his crew, and they're going to travel north with the party to they're going to do the construction of this temple. So that was really good. Lork actually goes to visit grandmother, and that's if you haven't been watching, grandmother is Dodonna Earthshade, who's actually Sprawl. She's a dwarf. She's actually Sprawl's grandmother. But she's one of the oldest people in this area, so kind of everybody refers to her as grandmother. She makes potions and stuff. So they always go to her to like get stocked up on healing potions and stuff. So she goes, when he goes there, there's like a buzz around her place. At first he thinks like, oh, something bad has happened because apparently my reputation as a castle keeper precedes me, because they're like, oh God, like he's thrown an attack at grandmother. And so Lort goes rushing in because he's going to help her, regardless of what the odds are. And he goes rushing in, and then he realizes like there's all these dwarves there, and they're packing up her house and loading like the essential belongings into a wagon because she's coming north as well. And so he does get some potions out of her. She'd set some stuff aside, knowing that they'd want some stuff when they returned. So they're able to do that. And then the next day, they don't waste any time in in Arden. They head north, and we didn't belabor the travel. They arrive in Highhold, which is, they've been busy. They've rebuilt the walls. They have a solid wall around the town. So like almost like a frontier fort is what it's like. It's smaller than Arden. Arden at one time had about 5,000 people. It's less now because a bulk of the people have moved to Iredale Stronghold after that was retaken. Highhold's probably about 1,500 people, so it's maybe a little less. But they have like it's in the way I described it. One of I think it was Matt said, it kind of reminds me of like a frontier fort, and that's exactly right. That was a perfect way to describe it. They meet with Gorman McGregor, who is the elected leader of the town, and they tell him their plans. Hey, we're gonna, we're putting a temple in. He's more than happy. Like the party is, again, well regarded here. They've done a really good job building their reputation in different areas, which is helpful. So he's excited. He shows Sprawl a lot of land that he can use within the fort walls. He had the option of building it within the fort or outside the fort. He wanted to do it inside the fort, so they do that. Couple things they come across since they've been gone. There's a trading post there called the Black Bear Trading Post, and that's run by a retired hunter known as Mick Dunn. Anya Kane, who's the sister of Artemis Kane, who's a character that got played for a little bit by my buddy Thad, his character's younger sister. She worked in the refugee camp tending, the wounded, and she now has a clinic there, a small thing. Sprawl sees her. They had worked together when the party went to the refugee camp, so he knows her. And there was actually some talk about during this last session of like maybe Sprawl can convert her to like the worship of Throster or something, which is fine. Like I think that's cool. The big part of this session, which I may not be conveying as well as I should, is this temple being built. It's a big deal, and not only is it a big deal in game, it's a big deal to Matt. So, which is awesome. Like he's put a lot of thought in this. He has a sign that he's been drawing out, and I think he's even made like a blueprint of the actual temple itself. So he and I have talked about actually building that like in terrain, which would be really fun. So it's a big deal in game and out, and I'm happy to help do my part as running the game to help make it happen. And Matt's doing the bulk of the work. I put it all in his hands. He can design it however he likes. So they see them. They spend some time. Sprawl does a ceremony consecrating the ground and casting spells. They have like an earth moving ceremony. So a lot of the townsfolk gather around for that, and he actually casts a spell like he did when they were defending against the troll invasion. He starts moving earth like with this spell, which speeds up things quite a bit. And Gorman sees that, and he's like, the wheels start turning, like, oh, that could be useful. So and the party noticed that, not in a malicious way, but he's like, above board. He's like, I'm going to have to talk to him about maybe some improvements to the defenses of the town once he gets settled, if he has the ability to cast that spell. So he was excited to see that. And the party starts to settle in. They're staying at the Black Bear trading post. Grandmother is kind of like taking charge of like overseeing the Sprawl's entire operation. Durek and his crew described Durek like he was walking the plot of land and basically mentally placing every stone that was going to be laid there. He sent a crew out into the hills. The Highhold is located in a place called the Jagged Hills. So they go out like early on when they first get there and find a place where they can start to quarry stone with very little difficulty. So it's kind of all this logistic stuff we're playing with. And this whole session was this way. We only rolled dice a little bit. It was mostly role play and some discussion on out of character, a little bit of out of character, but a lot of great role play. So yeah, they're like I said, they're staying at the Black Bear trading post, and they're in there one night. They actually ask about Bodhill because Bodhill, this is where they met her, and she's traveling with them. Obviously, she's a traveling companion with the party. But she had some trouble here because she used to get in fights with like the men. And what they've learned though is a lot of it was just she was frustrated because she didn't want to like spend her life, just living in town. Like she wanted to adventure, and so she's less inclined to get in fights with the townsfolk now because she's been able to get out and go adventure. Although she does have this pent up anger issue that it's gotten a little bit better, but she's still dealing with it from her being captured and being helpless, and then being affected by spells to the point where she actually attacked Lork. A lot that still bothers her. She's still very affected by it, but it has lessened a little. So they were concerned about her being here, but she was fine. She didn't have too many problems. So they're in the trading post relaxing one night, and Lork catches this whiff again with those sense of smell that he has, and it's this foul odor. And seconds later, the door opens, and these two men come in. And they're clearly fishermen. And what they've learned is McDunn has hunting and fishing teams that he sends out to help bring food into the town. And because Lork has been doing some hunting while they've been there. He hasn't had much else to do. Lifting stuff because he's very strong with his belt of giant strength. And so grandmother put him to good use lugging stuff around too when he wasn't out hunting. But anyway, these two fishermen come in, they got this, and they come up and they're asking for McDunn, and they're like, yeah, he's out back. And they're like, what's up? And they're like, oh, well, we got to show him that this is all, we found it. So they're like, what? And they can all smell it now, and it's just foul. So they go outside, and the fishermen dump the bag, and it's got these big salmon in it, but they look just kind of rotted and in bad shape. And one of them cuts them open, and the stink gets worse, almost like if you've ever paunched an animal before. It's pretty foul. It smells kind of like that. It's just foul. But this greenish liquid oozes out of them, and they're immediately like, we've seen this before. And we had to do a little refresher with the players, but their characters were like, this looks like the same crap that we saw when we were in Dustthorn dealing with the Rock Priest. And that was the Rock Priest, if you remember from the earlier sessions, he escaped through a portal that was opened up by the Horned Lord. And they don't know where he went. But now they have this. So the fishermen decide, they agree to help, or show the party where they caught him. They said they caught it off a stream that flew into the nearby river. So the party's going to investigate that. That's where we ended the session. Really good session. We had some awesome role play. Like there was some really great moments with all of them to play out. So we'll pick it up the next time. I appreciate everybody watching, and catch you at the next one.